Have you ever wondered how one small act of kindness can change an entire life forever? On a stormy night, an old woman gave away her last piece of bread to a hungry stranger, never imagining that by sunrise, soldiers would be standing outside her broken hut. Dark clouds swallowed the sky as fierce winds roared across a tiny mountain village. Rain poured relentlessly, and every family locked their doors, praying for the storm to pass. At the edge of the village stood a fragile mud hut where an elderly widow lived alone. She owned almost nothing, just a clay stove, a torn blanket, and one final piece of homemade bread. As thunder shook the earth, someone knocked gently on her wooden door. When she opened it, she found a soaked traveler shivering in the cold. His clothes were covered with mud, and exhaustion filled his eyes. "Mother," he whispered, "I haven't eaten in 2 days. Could you spare a little food?" The old woman looked at the lonely piece of bread resting on her wooden plate. It was all she had for herself until the next harvest. For a brief moment, hunger battled kindness inside her heart. Then she smiled. "My son," she said softly, "a hungry guest is God's greatest blessing." Without hesitation, she placed the entire piece of bread into the stranger's hands. The traveler tried to refuse after learning it was her last meal, but she insisted. She warmed a little water over the fire, added a pinch of herbs, and served him a simple soup. She spread her only blanket over his shoulders, while she herself sat awake through the freezing night. The stranger ate with tears in his eyes. Before dawn, he quietly thanked the old woman and disappeared into the mist without revealing his name. The old woman believed she would never see him again. The next morning, the peaceful village was shaken by the sound of galloping horses. Royal soldiers surrounded her tiny hut. The frightened villagers gathered outside, whispering that perhaps the old woman had unknowingly committed a crime. The captain of the guards stepped forward and respectfully bowed before her. "The king wishes to see you." Confused and trembling, the old woman was escorted to the royal palace. As the palace doors opened, she froze. Sitting upon the magnificent throne was the same weary traveler she had fed the previous night. He smiled warmly. "I am your new king." The entire royal court watched in silence. The king stood, walked down from his throne, and bowed before the old woman. "When I first entered this kingdom," he said, "I traveled in disguise to learn the true nature of my people. Many closed their doors because of fear. Only one person shared everything she had without asking my name." He gently held up the empty wooden plate she had given him. "This bread was worth more than all the gold in my treasury." The king ordered that her broken hut be rebuilt into a beautiful home. Her fields were restored, her debts were forgiven, and every month fresh food was delivered to her doorstep. But the greatest honor came when the king declared before the entire kingdom, "From this day forward, let every child learn her story, because a kingdom becomes truly rich not through its treasure, but through hearts like hers." The old woman smiled with tears in her eyes. She had never expected a reward. She had simply chosen kindness, and that is why her kindness returned in a way she could never have imagined. Because the greatest acts of goodness are the ones we perform when no one is watching, and life always finds a way to reward a pure heart.